Testing, testing.
You know Rita Massa?
Testing. Testing.
I don't know. I never been.
Okay. Did you get your agenda and everything? Yeah. Let me get you. Right up there. And I'll get it. Rita, do you know Pat or another person? Hi. Yeah. Yeah. I remember you. I remember you too. Wonderful. Nice to meet you. Did you get one of our handouts? I did not. Oh, they have one here. You want to give her one of those handouts? So I'll put here.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
You guys are gonna be more effective than anybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
All those cars are. That traffic is backed up, all those people. I mean, it's horrible, but it is what it is. It's the only way they can get to the name. It's not going to.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to the Special City Commission Workshop for Wednesday, July 15, 2026. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Plaut,
Here.
Commissioner Preston,
Here.
Commissioner Shinesky,
Here.
Vice Mayor Hudak,
Here.
Mayor Drosky.
Here. If everyone would please stand for a moment of silence and the pledge of allegiance to be led this evening by Vice Mayor Hudak.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, we have approval of the agenda this evening for July 15, 2026. Before a motion is made, I would like to ask my colleagues if we could please reconsider 7.09 or have another discussion on that this evening. I think there was some misapprehension or misunderstanding by my colleagues at the last meeting, and because we can't talk about it outside of the sunshine, I want to make sure that we could do it tonight. That was with respect to the property distribution, 7.09. So I'd like to include that in the agenda after Article 11 tonight. Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Let the record show
No.
unanimous.
I oppose.
Let the record show 4-1. Madam Clerk.
For those attending via Zoom online wishing to speak on the item, please click raise hand at the bottom under the reactions tab, and your audio will be unmuted when you are recognized by Mayor Drosky. For those attending via Zoom by telephone, please press *9 to raise your hand and your audio will be unmuted when you are recognized by Mayor Drosky. Please make sure your audio is unmuted on your end by pressing *6. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, item number 1 this evening.
Item number 1 is a discussion regarding potential amendments to Charter Article 11.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We had a lot of, at least I know I had a very busy week since the last meeting that we had. Meeting with many of you, lots of emails, telephone calls, even as of today, some even as of this afternoon, playing phone tag. I see a couple folks that we played phone tag this afternoon with that didn't get through, but very vigorous discussion. And I think where we left off is where we still pick up, is that we're all in agreement that we want to protect our barrier island. There's no question about that. Protecting the barrier island and preserving it and investing in the barrier island, kind of at the last meeting sounded like they were two opposite or polar opposite ideas, but it's really not the case. We all want the same thing. We all don't want the high rises. We don't want the Boca or the Pompano or the Fort Lauderdale feel. These are all things that we want. They're not mutually exclusive ideals as we go forward. But we do have properties, and I brought it up at the last meeting. We do have properties that are obsolete and declining, and they cannot be redeveloped under the current restrictions that we have in the charter. They just can't, and we know which ones that they are. But nobody is for keeping that obsolescence and also the decline going, because it's very difficult, because you have to think here and now in the moment, but you have to put your hat on. What's the barrier island going to look like 10 years from now, 15 years from now? And that's what we're really trying to decide. So you have to not deceive with the island that you have today, but what is the island you're going to have 15 years from now? And you're going to have to look into the future. And that's a little bit harder to do. But because nobody votes for decline, nobody votes to go down. Nobody does that. It just happens slowly over time. And if you look at the barrier island, and if we're honest with ourselves, that's what's slowly happening over there. And so how do we thread that needle? How do we thread that needle to get to the preservation that we all want and we all deserve? Well, I, for one, heard everyone here loud and clear at the last meeting. I don't think it was very hard to hear. And in the conversations that we had, that the vast majority of you have issues with the height proposal that was over there. So I'm okay with leaving the height as it is in the charter now. I don't think we need to increase the height over on the barrier island, but we do have to, hold on. I haven't finished, 'cause you may not clap when I'm done, but we do have to tinker with it a little bit. It's like a scalpel, we have to take out a little bit to make that preservation that we want going forward. And talking to everybody on every side of the aisle, because if we did what the developers want, we would do what the Charter Review Board recommended, which is to remove everything, all the restrictions from the charter. That's not, at least for me, that's not on the table here tonight. And so what is the least minimal thing that we can do to preserve what we all want? And one of those things that's in the charter is the floor area ratio. And it's a very complicated concept, but it's something that if we tweak, we don't need to change the height at all. We can live with the height the way that it is and leave the charter and the restrictions that you all want and preserve alone. Yes, we're going to need to make some tweaks to it, but I think if we have some minor changes to it and we're intellectually honest with one another, we may not like it, we may not want it, but we all know something has to be done to protect that future of Deerfield Beach 15 years from now. That's what we're doing. I don't want the commission 15 years from now looking back saying, hey, they had the opportunity to preserve the island. They had the opportunity to prevent all the blight that is over there at that time, and they didn't do it. So this is what we're trying to do now. We're all residents up here just like you. We want what's the best for Deerfield Beach. I started, because of an issue in District 4, very similar to District 1. So I know exactly where you're all coming from and how we're lining up on this. But there are changes on the horizon that we need to protect ourselves from. I mentioned at the last meeting, Live Local. Live Local is for real in Tallahassee. Now, I mentioned that Live Local for a mile radius, including Boca Raton. That's not the way that it is now, but that's the way they're talking about it in Tallahassee. They want to change that law to include as much as they can. So that law could and will change as we go forward. So let's protect Deerfield Beach now while we have a say in it. When we don't have a say in it and it's too late, then we're all going to regret it. So I would be in favor of tweaking 1101 and 1102, no wholesale changes, no height increase, no elimination in its entirety. But the tweaks we need to get through so that the voters can decide on what they want out there. Let the voters decide. We're not deciding. Ultimately, you're going to decide as the voters. We're putting that recommendation forward. So whatever comes out tonight, you'll ultimately have the ultimate say on it at the ballot box in November. But leaving it alone, I really don't think is the way to go, folks. I really don't, because it doesn't protect Deerfield Beach for years to come, if we're honest with each other. Vice Mayor Hudak, you have your light on first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well said, well said. I'm in agreement with you. We are not the ones making the decision. The voters are the ones that are making the decisions. And as we said, or as you said, my opinion is I don't agree with the Charter Review Committee's recommendation to remove Article 11.01 from the city charter. I do recommend, however, we allow the 2026 voters to determine if it should be modified. The greatest document created in the history of the United States is the U.S. Constitution. It was written by 55 delegates and signed on September 17th, 1787. There was much thought and debate that went into that document, and yet, within 2 years, the first Congress of the United States proposed 12 amendments to it. 10 of those amendments were ratified and are now collectively known as the Bill of Rights. My point is, for all the thought and debate that went into the creation of the U.S. Constitution, it was not perfect. To date, a total of 27 amendments have been ratified to it. In 1919, the 18th Amendment was ratified. It prohibited the manufacture, sale, or transportation of intoxicating liquors. The 18th Amendment was passed due in large part by advocacy groups who believed that banning alcohol would reduce crime, alleviate poverty, lower domestic violence, and improve the overall health of Americans. The 18th Amendment was passed by Congress with 68% support in the House of Representatives and 76% support in the Senate. And it was subsequently ratified by 46 of the 48 states, with over 80% of state legislators voting in favor of it across the country. Yet 24 years later, in 1933, the 21st Amendment passed with an approval of 73% of the popular vote, repealing the 18th Amendment. Each generation has its own values and must be respected if a country, a state, or a city is going to continue to thrive. Each charter and every amendment to it are written with the greatest of intentions and based on the values of its authors. These are living documents. They are not set in stone, and they must be reaffirmed by future generations as values and times change. For the past 24 years, there is a lot of good that Article 11.01 accomplished in protecting our barrier islands from overdevelopment. But in 2026, does it still reflect the will of the voters? In 1919, the 18th Amendment was approved by an overwhelming majority of the voting public. But by 1933, the values of the country had changed and it was repealed. I do not believe that Article 11.01 should be repealed from our charter. However, I am of the belief that modifications to it should be put forth before the voting residents of 2026 to determine if the modifications the modifications better align with their values. Ever since I was elected, there was some very vocal members of the Barrier Island community who were against having dunes on our beach. They were fearful that dunes would ruin the look and feel of our beach and would impede their view of the ocean from the road. As such, the city was forced to install a brown sand fence that did just that. This weekend, we completed the dune project that was started over 9 years ago. While completing the project, numerous beachgoers approached me and praised the look and feel of our new dune system, even asking me, why did it take our city so long to get on board and save our beach the natural way and finally get rid of the brown sand fence that had been in place for years? As Harold Wilson so eloquently stated, he who rejects change is the architect of decay. Values and times change, and new generations must have a voice in how our city looks and grows. Responsible and well thought out change should not be feared. They should be considered, and if approved by the voting public, implemented. The voice of Deerfield Beach's residents has been silenced for the last 24 years regarding Article 11.01. They deserve to be heard and to let this and future commissions know how they want Article 11.01 to read. Yes, we finally have some townhouses being developed north of our pier, replacing the duplexes and the homes that were built in the 1920s, the 1930s, and the 1940s. Townhouses are allowed based on the RM25 zoning of that area. Maybe the voters of 2026 believe it's time to be able to rezone some of the Barrier Island north of the island, north of the pier, as RS, single family home. Unfortunately, having in our charter requirements that state no changes are allowed that were not in the land use regulations as existed in 2002 prohibit the city from making any such changes. As I previously stated, it is my belief that Article 11.01 should remain in our city charter. But I support allowing the 2026 voters to determine if Article 11.01 represents their values as it did the 2002 voters, or if 24 years later, values have changed and Article 11.01 should be modified to reflect those changes. Again, my recommendation, and I seem to be aligned with our mayor on a couple of things, and I'm going to go by each section so that everybody understands what I'm proposing. I, again, do not agree with the Charter Review Committee to remove Article 11. I think some of the sections should be tweaked, so I'm going to go by each section. Sections 1 and 2 regarding the height limits of 45 feet and 55 feet. I'm of the opinion that we should keep the height restrictions as they currently are and no changes to them. Sections 3 and 4 regarding the floor area ratio. I would ask the 2026 voters to remove these items in Article 11.01. Sections 5 and 6 regarding maximum lot coverage of 40 and 50%. I'm of the opinion that we should keep them as they are in the article. Sections 7 and 8, mixed use of the first floor multifamily and hotel motel properties. I would ask the 2026 voters to remove these items in Article 11.01. Sections 9 and 10 regarding zoning. I would ask the 2026 voters to keep this section in the article but eliminate all references to land use regulations as existed in May of 2002 and replace that language with current land use regulations. If the 2026 voters decide that no changes should be made to Article 11.01, then no changes will be made. For the past 24 years, voters have not had the opportunity to directly express their views on Article 11.01. It is my opinion that continuing to deny voters the opportunity amounts to voter suppression. They deserve to have their voices heard and their values reflected in the city charter. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Plout, you have your light on next.
Thank you, Mayor. I have to say that after being a Deerfield Beach resident, loving every part of this town, especially the beach, and being here for 43 years, and I do have to thank Mr. Tom Connick and our former Commissioner Pam Militello for the effort that they did 24 years ago, because today, and I have spoke with both of them a lot, and they will tell you that in person, a few hours worth. And today, additionally, former Commissioner Militello came over my house and reminded me about the Observer article from 1998. And it said, the title of the article was "A Grand Design for Deerfield Beach." And look at this complex that they wanted to put on the beach parking lot. I voted for the Save Our Beach. I did. And I think that just about every protection that's in here should be here. I think that most people are most concerned about the height. I've heard things like, we don't want skyscrapers. We don't want concrete walls. We don't want the buildings touching. We don't want Boca Raton. We don't want Fort Lauderdale. We don't want Pompano. I don't either. I think it was some genius to put that regulations in the charter. I do. Because now for it to change, it has to be a public vote. But over time, things do change. I was self-employed most of my life, but in a few years before I retired, I did run a home inspection company. We did windstorm inspections, saved people a lot of money on their homeowners insurance. But all of a sudden, in about, I think it was 2014 or 2015, FEMA decided to change the flood elevations. It's called NAVD. And flood elevations started being measured by the government based on historical data of 10-year, 20-year, and 100-year floods, okay? And they started that in 1928. And for many years, they didn't really do a lot with that. But all of a sudden, we started getting phone calls left and right for people that needed elevation certificates. Initially, we didn't know what that was, but that was a document that the insurance company wanted for flood zones, because FEMA, Florida Emergency Management of the federal government, had changed the flood maps. All of a sudden, people, when you think about being in a flood zone, you think about being close to the water and close to the ocean, but all of a sudden, people all the way out in my district and in my neighborhood were suddenly required to have flood insurance. And we're like, we're not even near the ocean. I didn't understand that. And so the president of the company decided to get in the business of doing elevation certificates. And it involves some equipment that measures the lowest point of your house in relation to the ocean, okay, to see how far you are above sea level, okay? And so a couple years ago, FEMA change, they said they were going to do it every 10 years, but I've been told they're doing it more frequently now. And the last time that they changed it, they put our beach on a 13-foot elevation. Now, everybody knows the downtrodden property next to the Wyndham called the Sunrider, or was, whatever it is. And when that was built in 1960, the flood elevation was at 5 feet. Okay. And what that means is the first finished floor where you live has to be 5 feet above sea level. Right now it's at 13 feet. So I would say that if that foot drops again in the near future, and it will, because what are people talking about? They're talking about sea level rise and all these other things. Okay. The longer we delay in doing something, the more chance it is that they're going to raise that 13 feet to 15 or 18 or whatever it is. So now you got to build up the ground more and then put your building on top of that. So and I am for 1 and 2 for commercial buildings to stay at 45 feet and residential buildings to stay 55 feet. And I want it to be in the charter. And I think that protects it. Okay. But if we sit on this and we kick the can down the road, the building is going to look higher. And there's a lot of other things that come in with that. Some people have raised their houses up in different areas in our city. And it is a tremendous expense to do that. Not only that, but when they build the house up, they can't now have a mountain of water coming down on their neighbors. So they have to have a wall on both sides of their house, and it has to have a setback, and they lose their own property, and yada, yada, yada. Okay. So that's huge. So we have to do something with that. I am in favor of removing the floor area ratio. I have spent so many hours on this. I'm telling you, in my office, talking to our deputy city manager, Eric Power, who for 10 years was our building department director. This guy knows everything about zoning. And he told me to look in our land development code that's off of the barrier island. And I looked at the residential area for that, what the setbacks are and the square footage and all that other kind of stuff. And the column that said floor area ratio said NA, not applicable. It's not applicable in the rest of this city. It's only on the barrier island. And I'm not going to go into a big floor area relationship, but I can tell you simply that as you add floors, the building gets smaller. That's the problem. And I sat with our new building director the other day, and I said, give me some examples of buildings that are 45 or 50 feet that they walked away from. And people come in with plans all the time. And there was a couple of different places that people came in with the plans. And when they got to the floor area ratio, the FAR, dead stop, just like that. They couldn't plan a building like that. It went from a 3-bedroom, well, now it's a 2. Well, maybe it's going to be an efficiency if we go up another floor. And they walked away from it. Other cities don't have that kind of thing. Now, what else do we have? We have lot coverage. Lot coverage is 5 and 6. For a commercial zoning designation, a commercial property has to have lot coverage of 50%. That means on that property, the building can only take up 50%. On residential, it says 40%. So that building can only take up 40% of the lot. The lot coverage for residential is only 40%. So you got 60% where you can have landscaping, setback, and all that other kind of stuff. So I want to take that floor area relationship out, relationship ratio. And I want us to stay at 45 and 55 feet. And for those of you that haven't done a super hard dive, I think that you're here tonight because you don't want big buildings. And we don't either. That's the point of all this. I would like to take out 7 and 8 because I believe that we need some mixed use. I think to have a more quality type of building, if we have a small hotel that's only 45 feet high, but that first floor, like most hotels that they're building these days, has a little bit of retail in it, maybe, convenience store kind of stuff. I go into the hotels when I represent the city, and it's a long walk to a shopping center. After sitting in a meeting all day, and I go up to my room and I don't even have a bottle of water. And in the modern hotels nowadays, there might be like a convenience store down there, and I can get some chips, or I can get some soda, or what. I don't drink soda, but I get some water or Powerade or something like that. Also, they might have a restaurant. And if they have a pool out there, they usually have an outdoor restaurant. So these are things that would bring people to the beach. I get the reason that this was all put in before. We don't want overdevelopment. I don't think removing these 3 items here are making overdevelopment. We still have the height. We have the setbacks, we have the landscaping, everything else. And as my comrade over here, that's not a good word. My colleague. Okay, so,
Focus.
as you said, the people have to vote on this. And, I think it's something reasonable. I think it is a great compromise. We can't have a scorched earth policy. This is not yesterday. This is not 25 years ago. This is now. And that's all I have to say, Mayor. For now.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Shinetsky.
I'm not saying, I'm sorry. I'm not saying in the future, we can't tweak, we can't move. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we don't have a clear vision of what we want the island to be. And that's critical. What I'm worried about, I don't want us to get a Rosewood, which is a third of a mile right up the road. A Rosewood is in the city of Hillsborough, right adjacent to Deerfield Beach. It's a massive 10-story luxury housing building. I don't want Deerfield Beach to become like that, because the developers would love, and I think so. They're looking for a profit. I think the developers would love that. So I think these restrictions in the charter slow it down. They may not stop it, but at least they slow it down. Because again, I don't want a Rosewood. I think by taking away the floor to area ratio, at this point, we're opening up to like a massive double occupancy. It's like a basketball player. It may not be a Wilt Chamberlain in height, but I don't want a Mike Tyson, which is massive. I don't want a concrete canyon. So it may not be in height, but it could be massive. All I'm saying is, I just want time. I want time to really research it, because our island has infrastructure problems. We have an aging infrastructure. I mean, our roads are very cramped. We have one way to enter and exit via the Hillsborough Bridge. The water pressure, I've spoken to residents of District 1. I live in District 3, so I'm not familiar with as much with District 1, but I've spoken to people that live in District 1. That's why I think it's so important to represent the area that you're familiar with and live with instead of somewhere else. So I've spoken to District 1 people, and they've told me time and time and time again, there are water pressure issues because our pipes are very antiquated. Hurricane evacuation. What I'm afraid of is the next hurricane. We're in hurricane season right now. There's really no hurricane evacuation plan. So I'm not saying that we can tweak things down the road. I'm just saying, what is the rush? We need to get more information. I don't want us to make a bad decision. Now I'm going to say something, okay? Small island city, rich history, extraordinary beauty, aging infrastructure, rising sea levels. Sounds like Deerfield Beach, right? No, I'm quoting Key West, a city called Key West. Now, Key West has strict restrictions in terms of height, floor to area ratio, width, lot. They have strict boundaries. And in doing research, Key West is very successful and they're a thriving area in both tourism and real estate. They have a strong rental and investment potential. They have a vibrant, walkable island town feel. They have a distinct island vibe. They have a mix of residents, of retirees and young professionals. Now, Key West is internationally known. You go anywhere in the world and you say Key West and people get an image. They're very distinctive city. And that is something very, very similar to Deerfield Beach. So before we move away these restrictions and we tweak and we're giving this, gloom and doom, there is a success in Key West. I think that if we further look at branding and markability, I think we could do some great things in Deerfield Beach. I'm saying maybe not down the road, we could tweak the city charter, but I don't think there's a rush on this. I think we need more information.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Preston?
Thank you, Mayor. One of the things that we have to grapple with is that the current charter stifles development for the developer, and there's no doubt, but that is by design. That's what the people wanted. It's not like they don't know that. And I will tell you that the argument somewhat is that that stifling of development will drive developers away. That's not true. Developers will come. They will find ways to be creative because that's what they do. I reached out to Holmes Black Beach, Siesta Key, Anna Marie Island, the town of Longboat Key. Those are our neighbors that were devastated on the West Coast by the hurricanes, of which I'm sure you're all familiar. As I spoke to those building officials and city administration, they couldn't have been more positive. And their height restrictions, by the way, is lower than what we have. And they will not allow they don't want any building. They have a criteria by which you get to whatever the footage is. And most of them was around 37, 35 feet. And that's it. But that is sometimes measured through surveys, going from the crown of the road, measuring from an adjacent street, and then you determine the height from there. But when I spoke to this gentleman from Holmes Beach, he said presently they have issued 4,751 permits. And plan reviews, 12,000 plan reviews that been issued. Total inspections performed, 17,970. And so the idea that you won't get business developers to come, it's not totally true. Will it be hard for them? Yes, it will be. It'll be challenging. But, when we say that we like to keep the height restrictions the same, but let the voters determine that. Now, once it goes on the ballot, those that live on the barrier island has actually lost control. They've lost control because you don't know what's going to happen once it gets on the ballot. And funny things can happen. And I could still say, I didn't want that to happen too late because it has happened. The best way to ensure that the height limit stays the same, if that is what we're looking to do, is not put it on the ballot. That's the first thing. And you will have more security if you do it that way. The floor plan ratio is something that we can look at and something that should have a robust debate about that. But I think that if a developer is having issues, what prohibits that developer from coming in front of the commission and saying, I can't build but so high, but I need this? And the commission, like we have done in so many other cases, when we look at variances, we don't give everybody a variance. That's not what the commission does. You look at each individual case, and this commission have said yes to some and no to others. And so that developer that may need special consideration to develop in the beach area, on the barrier, but is running into certain obstacles, nothing prevents he or she from coming in front of the commission, presenting their case, and letting the commission make an informed decision based on what that person is trying to do. And so I just want to just tell you that the idea of businesses won't happen, development won't happen, that's not true. Everybody I called over there, they said, Commissioner, we are booming. We are booming. And so I believe that there is a conversation to be had about our barrier island and as it relates to what I just said. There is room for developers. There are room for developers, but we have to find what that is, and that development has to be measured, it has to be tempered, and also it has to be such that the people, the residents, realize that the people on this commission is actually listening to their individual concerns and how it relates to them. Now, you once you put it on the ballot, which is it sounds to be like a noble thing to do, but you've lost control. At that point, you've lost control because anything can happen. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. This is a workshop, folks, not a prep rally. So just keep that in mind, please. Commissioner Shinesky, you wanted to speak again?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I brought this up before, and I feel it's very, very critical. In this November ballot, one of the things that's going to be on the ballot that's very, very prevalent is Amendment 3. Amendment 3 talks about property tax exemptions. So Deerfield Beach, and I brought it up before, but I think it's critical. Deerfield Beach could lose 18% of their budget money, about $12.5 million. That's substantial. That's going to be on this November's ballot. Also, one of the ramifications is this could take the play out of the city commission's hands. If this gets passed, we would be in control of our money. If there's a sinkhole outside, we have to go to the state. If there's an emergency with the infrastructure, we have to go hand in hand to the state. Could you please help us? We won't have money. Not only that, but smaller cities, and there are smaller cities in Broward County, they would be financially crippled. So Amendment 3 is extremely important. This will be a game changer. This is something that the citizens of Deerfield Beach and Broward really have to examine. So by putting this this charter with 11.1 and 11.2, I think it's important, but I think it could wait. We can revisit this. We can look at it another time and get more information. We can move it down the road. It's not imperative, but on this November ballot with the property tax amendment, that's going to show whether the city commission will even be effective in the years to come. So this is critical. Also, remember, in the November ballot, we're going to be deciding a new governor, brand new senator, brand new congressperson that's been redistricted. So these are very, very, very critical questions. I'm not saying that we can't examine everything, but let's be realistic. Sometimes you have to focus on the very, very important things first, and then you can move on to other important things. So I'm saying, let's not rush it. Let's not put the charter revision 11-1 on the November ballot. There's no reason why we can't put it on a March ballot or maybe in November of 27, because the November ballot is going to have property amendment, about property tax amendment number 3. So that's all I'm saying. Give it some time. By then, hopefully we'll have more information and we can make a better decision for everybody involved. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is a workshop. We're not voting on anything tonight. This is just an opportunity to the commission to discuss it amongst itself, to determine if there's any consensus. So having the opportunity to listen during my colleagues, I'm okay with Commissioner Hudak's, Vice Mayor Hudak's suggestion about the floor area ratio and the mixed use, Mr. City Attorney. So if I hear correctly from the various comments, I think you have consensus on that.
And just for clarification, so it would be remove the floor area ratio and remove subsection 7 and 8 regarding mixed use and accessory use?
Correct.
Okay, and what about his suggestion on 9 and 10?
That was just to revise some language.
Okay, are we doing that? Okay.
Yes. Yes. I think there's 3 that are.
Okay.
So it's not a super majority, right?
I don't know what you mean.
It's not a super majority. We've discussed it before. I'm also
Alright.
not in agreement
Okay.
with taking away the floor to area ratio and the width in the lot.
Right, it's just consensus building. We'll wordsmith it and then come back on the 21st and debate it again. But tonight is just an opportunity just to get everyone's thoughts together. Mr. City Attorney, we'll move on to 11.02.
Yes.
Give me a second.
Agenda item on the agenda, Mayor.
Correct. I'll start off since there's no lights on 11.2. Again, very similar to 11.01 is 11.02 does not need to come out of the charter. Again, it's minor tweaks to make it work going. What is the future for Deerfield Beach? And I had the opportunity to re-listen to our meeting from the last time, and Commissioner Hudak, Vice Mayor Hudak mentioned some things that I didn't even think about before, to be honest with you. For example, he mentioned with respect to the parking spaces that you have golf carts now and you have different modes of transportation that we didn't have when the charter was around. So maybe tweaking that particular section. With respect to commercial use, the Vice Mayor talked about green markets and I didn't write my notes down good enough. There was something else that you mentioned. Food trucks. Yes, thank you about there as well. So there are some reasonable tweaks that I think we all could live with to make the Barrier Island better, but not destroy the protections for the main beach parking lot. So I would be in favor of those tweaks. I'll listen to what anyone else has to say, but those were my thoughts coming in. But I would leave the vast majority of the rest of this. Section B, I don't have any changes to that. It's just under Section 1. Maybe some minor tweaks there, but that would be it, just to make the Barrier Island better, not worse, as we go forward in the next century. Vice Mayor, you have your light on.
I do. So I did talk about this the last time, but just to reiterate. Again, I do not agree with the Charter Review Committee's recommendation to remove Article 11.02 from the city charter. I do recommend, however, we allow the 2026 voters to determine if it should be modified. Due to its location, the main beach parking lot is mostly used for beachgoers, not individuals looking to patron our businesses. As I stated at last workshop, I see no need now or in the future to build a parking garage at this location. It is my opinion that we owe the 2026 voters the opportunity to tell the city if Article 11.02 still reflects their values, or if 24 years later, values have changed and Article 11.02 should be modified to reflect those changes. So I'm going to go through sections again. Section A and A1 designating these sections designate the main beach parking lot area, and I recommend we keep that as is. So again, when you're looking at a ballot, if you recommend to keep it as it is, it doesn't go on the ballot. There's no language to it. It's mute. Section 2A restricts the ability to build a parking garage. So I recommend, as I stated, to keep this section. But again, I would ask to modify, ask the 2026 voters to modify to eliminate all references to land use regulations as existed in May of 2002 and replace the language with current land use regulations. Section A3. This section mandates each parking space must be 10 by 20. This eliminates the ability to incorporate spaces for compact vehicles, golf carts, motorcycles, and personal scooters. So I would ask the 2026 voters to remove this section. Section A4 advises what we can place on the lot, restrooms, public safety. I recommend we keep that as is. Section A5. This section severely restricts what events can take place on the lot, such as a farmer's market, a food truck event, or a pop-up parklet. Events like these did not exist in 2002 and are currently not allowed to take place on the main beach parking lot. I would ask the 2026 voters to remove this section. Section A6 allows for public non-commercial use. I recommend we keep that as is. Section A7, this section eliminates the use for technical parking deviations, and I would ask the 2026 voters to remove this section. Sections B1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They basically describe the location of each parking lot, and I would recommend that we keep this section as is. Thank you.
Vice Mayor, could you please run through that again? Just make sure I wrote down my notes correctly. Which sections, please?
Sure.
Just keep or remove, just.
Section A1, keep. Section A2, keep but modify to remove the land use regulations as existed in May of 2002. Section A3, remove. Section A4, keep. Section A5, I would ask for this section to be removed. Section A6, keep. Section A7, remove. And sections B1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, keep.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Shinetsky.
I liked what the District 1 Commissioner said at our last workshop about having a fresh or green market in the parking lot. When I go to the events and I see the parking lot being used, like on July 4th and Pioneer Day, I mean, people are in the parking lot, they're going to different tents, you know, it's a meeting place, and that gave me a great idea. And like the District 1 Commissioner said, to put like a green market in that parking lot. So the only thing I could think of, because I know vendors have gone to the city and asking that they want to do a green market or a fresh market in the parking lot. And the argument that sort of pushed them back was, hey, special events, you only have 15 days. So, you know, we use it for Pioneer Day, July 4th. So there's really not enough time. So the only thing that I would like tweaked is to maybe increase that. Instead of 15 special events, maybe double or triple it, because I think it would be a fantastic idea to have a green market in the parking lot. It would be vendor driven. It would be an open air market. There would be produce. There would be specialty foods, artesian goods. It's a tourism draw. The walkability factor, you could walk around. And the great thing, it could be for like a seasonal type of appeal. And I went over to Riviera Beach, and Riviera Beach has a green market. They renamed it Singer Island, but it's fantastic. I was walking among there. It's very vacation style atmosphere. There was music, there was, you know, food. It's very thriving, and it's very conducive to a coastal community, which is what Deerfield Beach is. So if we're trying to enhance Deerfield Beach and make it more marketable and rebrand it as a village type atmosphere that people can relax and really love and enjoy the beach, I think moving or increasing the special events from 15, maybe doubling or tripling it, and giving an opportunity to have these green markets in the parking lot. I think it's a great gathering place, and I think it's a perfect location. So I'm very in favor of that.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Plow?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm like-minded with the Vice Mayor Hudak on this. I definitely did not want any commercial development on here. I think it was horrific that people would give up this parking lot. I think it's important to have a place to park when you go to the beach. I like the fact that it can be used for things like the 4th of July. We had all the different rides there and things like that. We also might have the ability in the future to reconfigure it a little bit. Maybe have a stage on that part right there, and be able to have, like on our 4th of July, that stage blocked the view of the beach. So there's a lot of things that we can do with it by keeping it a parking lot. I was concerned about number 5, though. I got some clarification because it says, other than vending machines, there shall be no other significant commercial use. So in my mind, I was thinking taking that out meant, oh, well, now we can have commercial development on the parking lot. But I want everyone to know that commercial use is not the same as commercial development. So by taking this out, that does not mean that, oh, we can develop it commercially with permanent buildings. That is not what this means. So I'd like to keep the entire provision there and ask the voters if they would consider taking out 3, 5, and 7. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Anyone not speak? Okay, having the opportunity to, some of these comments were in line with what I heard from the last meeting with respect to the parking spaces and the commercial use. So, Mr. City, I'm okay with that. So, Mr. City Attorney, I think you have consensus on 3, 5, and 7 and 1102.
So
And
remove
then-
3, 5, and 7.
Correct. And I guess the same verbiage update in section 2 that was in 1101 as well.
Okay.
Good luck wordsmithing that. We look forward to how you do that at the next meeting.
75 words.
And then that brings us back to 7.09. So I just wanted to make sure, because there was a lot of discussion at the last meeting, as I'm pulling up the section, with respect to, this is the property distribution ordinance to my colleagues. So there was a lot of discussion at the last meeting with this, and it was mostly in the context of sale of the property. And probably most of you, like I did, had the 1045 project in your minds. That was the referendum that we had a couple years ago that the voters approved at 10th Street and I-95. And that required, because it was over $750,000, had to go to referendum. But that's a property the city was selling. But 7.09 is far more encompassing than that. And that's what I want to just impart to my colleagues here. It says, any sale, gift, trade, transfer, or lease of all or portion of city-owned real property, and it goes on and on. But the key word in that is that I want to bring up to you guys is lease. Any sale, gift, trade, transfer, or lease of city-owned real property. And why is that so important? Because all 5 of us up here have talked about the absolute need to upgrade our fire stations here in Deerfield Beach. Every single one of them. Some of them need to be raised actually and built from the ground up. And that's not cheap. To do all of the fire stations, you're probably looking at a $75 to $100 million price tag on the conservative side. So how do we all want it, but how do we pay for it? We don't have $75 to $100 million lying around to pay for it. So that option is out. We don't have the cash to do it. So that means we can either do a bond or we can do a P3. Let's start with the bond. The bond would require you, the voters, to pay for it with interest over time. $75 to $100 million. Everyone, it needs to be done. Let's, I hope we can all agree on that. It absolutely has to be done. But how do we pay for it? Do we pay for a bond where we go out and then the voters are responsible and on the hook for all that money? And there's also an option for a P3, public-private partnership. Private-public partnerships weren't really around or in vogue when this provision went into the charter originally. So it's hard for the charter to encompass a concept that wasn't even around at that particular time. So if we wanted to do a public-private partnership where the city goes into partnership with the developer, like at the 1045 project, for a developer to rebuild all of our fire stations on their dime on city land, structured correctly, it would cost the taxpayers $0. But to do that, because it's a lease, if we were to lease it to the developer, a lease, which is in this provision here, a lease, it would have to go to referendum. Now, I'm not sure any developer is going to want to wait around for Deerfield Beach to decide whether they want to lease and go to a referendum or not for a project of that particular magnitude. So if we want to make sure that we do it and we give the residents and the taxpayers the best option available, we're handcuffing ourselves with this particular option here. Let the voters decide whether they want to be handcuffed or not going in the future, if they want this provision in there. We decided previously not to, but I'm asking my colleagues to please reconsider. I'm not sure that you contemplated, and I say that respectfully, the leasing provision that's in here as well, to put that on the ballot and let the voters decide. Because if we do come up with a public-private partnership and we want to redevelop all of our fire stations, which all of us have said that we want to do, we either can't do it or we have to go to referendum and wait 2 years and hope the developer wants to wait 2 years with us to do that when they can go to other cities that don't have this requirement in their charter. Very few, I couldn't find any actually around us that have this requirement in their charter at all. So they're not handcuffed, so they can have their public facilities built, but we can't as a result of it. So I would please ask that you reconsider this particular item, put it on the ballot for the voters to consider in November, and let the voters decide whether they want this option in there. But I personally don't want to handcuff the city and future commissions. And I don't think you do too. And I'm not really sure that we discussed that and thought about it properly at the meeting that we had before. This is the point where someone has to turn their light on. Commissioner Shinesky?
Sure. Well, I just want to say, I think developers are very patient. They'll wait. They'll wait because the bottom line is this: land, accessible, good land, especially in Deerfield Beach, is very, very rare. So they'll wait until the opportunity comes. So in terms of patience, I don't think they'll just turn around and say, no, let's go somewhere else. I don't think that's realistic. They'll wait. I think it's very, very important to let the people decide on what they want the land to be. What disturbs me a little bit is, I know originally in the charter revision, it's 750,000, and in the charter revision, they were looking at maybe raising the limit to 3 million, and then suddenly that disappeared. So now there's no limit at all. So that's what bothers me. There's no limit at all. I think it's a public question, and I think it's very important for the voters to decide, even in a referendum, of what direction they want that land to be used for. So that's my feeling.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Plow?
Thank you, Mayor. It's a very interesting thing to take a look at this a second time. And this was 28 years ago, $750,000. 28 years ago, Google tells me is worth purchasing power 1.5 million now. So when the Charter Review Board was considering raising the limit, that's just the inflation on your purchasing power. But I have to make a case. I didn't run the numbers, but I would have to make a case that real estate is appreciated so much more than even spending power. The number would have to be much larger. But I do appreciate the fact that a P3, which is a public-private partnership, to my knowledge, did not exist back then. And it is a tool that a city can use its assets without selling those assets and allow a situation that we could build our police and fire stations, which a lot of my colleagues have been very, very concerned about that. You know, we're already building our own police and fire right now, going on our own. But what about the buildings? Well, the buildings got to be replaced anyway. And no city of our size, we're the 10th largest city in Broward County. No city our size has $100 million to throw around for a building. And I don't want to stick it to my folks and have a bond issue where they have to pay it off. You know, we're close to paying off a bond right now that we got in the year 2000. And when the CRA sunsets in 2029, it's been finagled and I would say finagled, but planned that when the CRA sunsets, the bond that was appropriated to the CRA also will be paid off. So that's a wonderful thing. But it's just like when somebody has their house paid off, they can borrow on it and they still own the house. It makes a lot more sense to me that we could, utilizing a P3, which is a public-private partnership, to lease a property so that we could have these fire stations and these police stations and maybe other infrastructure built as well without having to raise our taxes to pay for a bond. And we still would retain ownership. So I regret my vote last time after I've had more time to get the facts and marinate on it. And I would also like to put that up for public discussion. Put it as a referendum for the public to decide. And that's all I have to say, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Mayor Hudak?
This is a tough one for me because I am of the opinion that it needs to stay in the charter. I'm the one who proposed increasing it to 1.5 million just to bring the 750,000 up to $26. But I've also been a adamant, supporter of these fire stations and police station that need to be revamped. They are antiquated, and Commissioner Shinesky likes to bring it up on numerous occasions, and he's accurate in the condition of these facilities. And the mayor is correct that we don't have $100 million sitting around to rebuild 4 or 5 fire stations. So I can understand the concept. And I guess I'd be hypocritical if I said, don't give the 2026 voters an opportunity to tell us what they want with this referendum or this item that's there now that's in the charter. I would personally probably not vote for it when it comes to the ballot. But I do understand the tool that it would create. I do understand how it would help the taxpayers and not having to foot the bill for $100 million bond. How it would help the Deerfield Beach Police and Fire to be able to get brand new facilities. So I can definitely understand the positives that brings, even though it does, as Commissioner said earlier, we lose some control with regard to the residents, lose some control on what we can do with the properties that they own as residents of the city of Deerfield Beach. So, I mean, the mayor brings up a good point. And if it's a choice between this and approving $100 million bond, I would definitely rather put this on the ballot to see if the voters agree with your opinion, sir.
And I would also add that we also have 50 acres in the south central part of our city, the Tam O'Shanter Golf Course that sat barren for years because we don't have the money to build a park there as well. This would be another opportunity for a P3. We don't have $50 million to build a park of that magnitude in that area of the city. And I know Commissioner Shinsky, you get complaints all the time about it's a coyote sanctuary now for all intents and purposes. And there's nothing the city can do about it because we don't have the funds to do it. That also would have to go to a bond or a P3. But we would have the opportunity through 709 to do something with that. So it's not just fire stations. I use that as a glaring example because all five of us have talked about it. But also the Tam O'Shanter Park that Commissioner Shinsky brings up quite frequently as well. Commissioner Plout, you have your light on?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
And followed by Commissioner Shinsky.
I just want to also clarify that the public not only would be making the decision on this, but it doesn't automatically mean that we're going to suddenly enter into a P3 arrangement. That would be very transparent, and there would be many, many discussions and many meetings on what would be considered, and the public would be able to have all the engagement in that situation where if we had that flexibility, not we, the commission, but if the city had that flexibility to be able to provide some type of infrastructure that's badly needed, and that we would only be able to put a bond on it and raise your taxes, then we would be able to figure that out with the help of staff, with the input from the people, and we could narrow a few projects down that we would all talk about, all have public input on before any kind of vote or moving forward with that would happen. This just gives us the flexibility to have that option. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Shinsky,
Yeah.
followed by Commissioner Preston.
Thank you. I mean, first of all, yeah, I'm in favor of P3s, but we have to also look at the other side. You know, we're talking about fire stations and parks, but also what happens if there's a property or something that's like totally off base that doesn't belong there? I know in that same 50 acres, we used to have 100 acres in Tam O'Shanter Golf Course. The other 50 acres was made into a cemetery. And this is way before my time. And I know that if I was around at that time, I would have definitely fought against it. And I know if that was really made clear to the public, I don't understand how it got through with that. So I like the process of having the voter referendum because again, property in Deerfield Beach is very, very rare. I remember when we did the Southwest 11th Way, we had town halls. We spoke both for and against all sides of it. So when it went to voter referendum and the voters approved what to do with that, that property, it was full steam ahead. Now it's sort of different. So that's a different question. But I think it's a good idea. If a project is good, it'll run on its merits. There's no reason to stop the process. If anything, I agree with District 1 Commissioner, raise it from 750,000 to 1.5 million. But I think it's very, very important that it runs its course and the public could have a referendum on what to do with property in Deerfield Beach. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Preston?
I too have thought about this, Mayor, and I think that you make a valid point because the money is not accessible. If we need to do so many things, certainly we've just entered into a big situation with getting our own fire department, and thank you. We've entered into making some decisions about getting our own fire department, our own police department, which is public safety. And without a doubt, we need to have big considerations on, how we deal with that. And fire departments are needed. The stations that are presently in place and operating are the very same stations that I started my career in and ended my career. So it needs to be, it deserves more thought. However, whenever you talk about like public-private. It's not like that becomes the answer to everything. And I think you have to look at it in terms of advantages versus the disadvantages. And probably, obviously, the most advantage would be that private capital comes up before you asking anything from the public. And the project delivery is going to be accelerated simply because you have the ability to do that because that capital becomes working capital and you're able to accelerate the project. However, there are disadvantages to P3s. Okay. And number one, sometime for you, the financing is going to be long-term. And oftentimes from what I've found out is that sometimes the language in P3s, the contract language can be very complex. And the lines are blurred when you talk about public accountability. So are there advantages? There are. And I would think that the advantages you have to put aside the disadvantages because we don't have the working capital. And I don't think that it becomes something that we could say to the public, we can't give you top-notch public safety because we don't have the money available. Is there a means to get it available? So I would be changing my opinion on that, where I struggle with that though, because I like the people having some say in it, but we're not going to have the ability to protect you like we should if we don't do anything. So I think that is something that we should consider. I don't have a problem with it going to the voters and let them decide whether a P3 would be something that the city of Deerfield Beach residents anyway would be amenable to.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Mr. City Attorney, I think you have consensus on 7.09. Next, it shows on the agenda for adjournment. We're not going to do that. So we are going to open it to the public and give everybody the opportunity to speak. I'll just let you know that most cities do not have public comment during workshop. We're not that kind of city here. And there's also rules that if you spoke at the first public workshop, you're not allowed to speak at the second public workshop. We're not going to follow that either. Whoever wants to speak tonight can certainly speak. We'll take those that signed up first. And we'll stay as long as it takes to hear everyone tonight and what they have to say. So, Mr. City Attorney, if you can just go through.
Motion to adjourn.
We are now at public comment. Persons addressing the commission may speak for 3 minutes. We request you state your name and address for the record, and no comments shall be made regarding the personal qualities of any individual that would offend persons of ordinary sensibilities. Thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk, I assume some folks signed up. Who's first and who's on deck?
Mr. Koenig and then Ms. Bolowich.
Tom Koenig, 411 East Hillsborough Boulevard, Deerfield Beach. What is the overarching concept of these charter revisions that we're talking about, this and the substantive ones? The overarching concept is to take power from the voters and to give it to the commission, except to the extent that you will give developers preferential treatment. Let me give you an example. Floor area ratio. How did that occur? It occurred because on the beach, they approved a project that was more than double the floor area ratio. When a resident challenged it and went to court, the city took floor area ratio completely. It eliminated it. That was put back in 2002. We only dealt with the barrier island. Otherwise, there should have been a floor area ratio protection for the rest of the city. But this is an example. There are so many misconceptions, but in 180 seconds, there's not much that can really be done to deal with these, except what I'm telling you is again, when we talk about overarching, when you were dealing with the vote for the November election, you giving the city commissioners 20 months more than they were elected to, when you have an option, instead have the election and those who were in would have 4 months left. Everything about this is to take power from the voters and to give it to the commissioners, except for the special provisions. Now, has anyone spoken about, they're talking about all this stuff with mixed use and accessory use? You can have restaurants on this. Has anyone talked about the Finbar 108 room hotel that was proposed? But it stopped right around the time this commission decided to hire ULI to come out with its foregone conclusions that, again, would give developers more power and would take it from the citizens, and it would also give the commissioners. And then you talk about, oh, well, we'll have a lot of discussions about this. Yeah, just like you have discussions and then you do what you want. When you say this is what the voters should approve, you are putting your imperata on what the voters should approve. Otherwise, you wouldn't put it on the ballot. And for us to be here and the commission to be spitballing this and seeing what they can do. By the way, Commissioner Hudak, you want to do away with, I believe it's.
Thank you, Mr. Koenig. Mrs. Bolowicz, you're up. And who's on deck, Madam Clerk? Mr. Hamowitz, you're next.
Hi, April Bolowicz, 899 Northeast 4th Street. I just want to point something out here. Deerfield Beach has local elections in March. The next scheduled election isn't in 2026 for local issues. It's in March of 2027. When you strip away all the fluff here, the net effect of having these charter change ballot measures put on the November 2026 ballot instead of the March 2027 ballot is clear. Your logic might be sound, but your motive is transparent. Look at the proposal to move the municipal elections from March to November. If approved this November, it could cancel the March 2027 election and extend the terms of two commissioners, Commissioner Hudak and Preston, by 20 months. Why the rush? March 2027 is only 4 months past November. There's no reason to rush this. Why can't it wait 4 months? Next, I have a group project. This is a group project listing reasons why moving these municipal charter issues to the next national ballot in November is a bad idea, because we don't want 20 extra months of the legacy that we're currently facing. Doing away with these charter amendments, that's not right. Referendums and variances make it fair for neighbors and developers. Number two, forcing a public safety change while withholding financial data and teaming up with ethics violators to do the feasibility study. Three, trying to require all future commissions to have a supermajority to change what they did to public safety regardless of the cost or unintended consequences. Withholding this March of 2027 to November 2026 idea from discussion with the Charter Review Board. Southwest 8th Avenue flooding ×2. Fire stations with 20+ years of mold and asbestos. No remedy, just deal. Pioneer Park boat ramp torn up and on hold. Oversized access project apartments jammed in. Modera next. Allowing the beach area to fall to ruin without citations or foreclosures. Derelict building on the northwest corner of 10th and US 1 behind Duncan. No foreclosures there either. Kingfisher Canal debris piled up over years, and other canals also need dredging. Incidentally, a couple of years ago, I started a change.org petition to move our municipal elections to November. After speaking at length with neighbors, with Commissioner Shinesky and Commissioner Preston, I've changed my mind. I just want to say I appreciate both commissioners for having these conversations with me. If you want to put your own changes into the city's charter, please put them on the March 2027 ballot, where we're all
Thank you.
expecting.
Mr. Hamowitz, come on down, please. And Madam Clerk, who's on deck?
Joy,
Madam Clerk, City Attorney, Commissioners, Vice Mayor. Mayor, my name is Howard Hamowitz, 536 Northeast 20th Avenue. Regarding the eyesore hotels in the Barrier Island, let's install fencing along the beautiful, these properties with beautiful beach-type panorama pictures. I'm speaking to what you see at large-scale construction sites where you see pretty pictures along the fencing. Yes, I realize these are private properties, but there is precedent. Prior to the current owners of Amante Italian Restaurant buying that property along the S-curve, it was in notable disrepair. When graffiti would suddenly show up, the city or CRA would promptly go on the property and paint over it. Also, I've witnessed windows in some vacant buildings on Hillsborough Boulevard near Federal Highway that suddenly have very pretty beach-type pictures put in the glass. This was certainly done by either the city or the CRA. So we could erect fencing at the perimeter of these offensive properties with beautiful beach-type panorama imagery to block viewing the decay within. It would only bolster their horrendous reputations were any of these property owners to complain over something that beautifies their terrible properties. Also, I reiterate my desire to see the main beach parking lot kept protected under 1102, but changed to include Commissioner Hudak's suggestions for restriping the parking spaces for maximum utilization by recognizing special reduced size spots for compact cars, golf carts, motorcycles, and scooters. Also, it is appropriate to change with the times to facilitate food truck nights and green markets. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hamowitz. Joy is next. And who's on deck, Madam Clerk?
Ms. Sophia?
Joy, just name and address for the record, please.
Joy Sporlater, 1360 Southeast Fourth Court, Deerfield Beach. I basically just have a couple of questions, things that I'm not really clear on. We talk a lot about, well, first of all, the charter was put in because this is what the people wanted. And when I just ran like a couple of little AI queries to see, does Deerfield Beach have a master plan? Do we have a vision of what we want it to look like? And the charter made it perfectly clear that the people wanted to keep it a small town feel, a village. What I don't understand is when we start chipping away at the charter and we start, I don't think anybody expressed that they wanted automatically to go 65 feet, yet somebody did propose it at the end of the last meeting. So I don't understand, are we chipping away at this charter so that it will open the door to now be run by the council as opposed to a vote by the people, by the residents? And this is what I'm concerned about because this is what seems to be happening. If we were concerned with the money, we want to bring in development, development wants to do what they want to do. I listened to the last meeting about the project that was on Federal Highway. I don't think that's going to help the residents of Deerfield Beach. I think that's going to be a huge traffic jam. But you talked at length about that at the last meeting and how you basically bent over backwards to make sure that everything was being done properly. But for the people to actually hire an attorney to try and stop that project, I think they felt pretty strong about it. And I think the residents feel pretty strong about the Barrier Island. I think they want it to stay quaint. And I'm not sure, again, this plan, is the master plan to have everybody come to our beach? Is it for the residents? Are we concerned with the residents? Residents used to have parking places at the beach and the fee was lowered from 100 to 75. Now we have no places and the fee went back up to 100. That's just like a small, tiny, tiny thing, but it just makes me a little confused with who really are we interested in entertaining? And it seems to me that the charter is pretty clear that it is for the people and for the people to decide. And I'm afraid that the suggestions that you're making will be chipping away at that until finally it's done. And I do remember a conversation that I had actually about the, what is the federal or the state program, Save Our Beach, what is it? You know which one, because you were the one that told me about it. Okay,
Unfortunately, time's up, Joy, but thank you.
thank you.
Ms. Manuelsko, come on down, please. And who's on
Linda
deck, Madam Clerk?
Kiss.
I'm sorry, who's on deck?
Linda Kiss.
Sophia Manolesco, 536 Northeast 20th Street. My parents were professors, so I come with homework. I brought some printouts because we're all talking about preserving the village. And I would like to address the commission as well as everybody who's been preserving the village. Okay, so let's have a neighborhood with stricter guardrails where it matters and smarter guardrails where we can increase revenue. Because our charter protections are guardrails, but right now they're not doing much for the northeast side of the beach. And what I mean by that is that's our jewel. With no late afternoon shadow, sunlight late into the evening, it is also the side that we actually have residences directly on the sand on the beach and with beach access. And the sliver between 7th on the border of Boca and 4th, right before the shadow of Tierra, is a prime target because the existing structures are old, especially the timeshare on A1A and 7th. And if you either Google map it or go walk it and see what I'm talking about, and I have pictures for everybody, and I'm going to show you this. So if this piece of property is sold and developed to the maximum allowed of 55 feet, then it will block the sunlight on the beach. So I would like for you to look at those pictures and see what it looks like. So yes, we need to keep the guardrails, but we also need to rethink some of the guardrails because they're not protecting the only village that is actually a village in Deerfield Beach, which is the northeast side, where all the little houses, because it has the Capellini regime, made it into a multi-family zoning. And when we built our house, we tried to encourage people to have single family, but it didn't take on because when the people buy those pieces, those parcels of land, there's a lot of land and a little old house and they tear it down and they build condos. And when you just said rezoning, it so spoke to my heart. I wasn't even thinking about that because in my mind, I'm thinking that entire section. So now we're talking about the beach, right? 55 feet. I have the picture. It's huge. It is huge. We cannot have 55 feet over there. So we need to address it. There are changes that can be made. And it doesn't mean that if we make some changes there or play with some of the floor area in the commercial where it's not blocking anyone's sun and the buildings are falling apart and there's things that we can do. And so in my opinion, if on some areas that are central, we can concede in favor of some floor variances, but maybe lower the recommendations on that side of the island. Make it 35 feet, make it shorter, preserve the village. Maybe more flexibility in the center where the properties are presently abandoned. We heard, yes, we can have cafes at the bottom of hotels. Why not? It just doesn't make any sense right now not to. And we have all these condos. And I really hope that at least maybe we can rezone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Manolesco. Mrs. Kiss, you're next. Name and address for the record, please.
Elinda Kiss, 1627
Just-
Riverview Road.
Just 1 second, we're not going to count this against your time. Who's on deck, Madam Clerk? Oh, okay, sorry.
Thank you. Deerfield Beach. Mayor Drosky, Vice Mayor Hudak, also my commissioner, Commissioners Preston, Shinetsky, and Plout. I urge you not to put any changes to Article 11 of the city charter on the ballot this November. As Commissioner Shinetsky said, we are going to be dealing with Amendment 3, and there are other issues, and that if you wait until a municipal election to worry about changes to the charter, that is better timing and allowing people to focus on it. If the provisions, it sounds like 3 of the 5 of you want to remove sections 3, 4, 7, and 8, and particularly the floor area ratios. If the protections of Article 11 are weakened even slightly, we will see increased traffic congestion and strain on evacuation routes on the Barrier Island. The Barrier Island has limited parking available. Adding higher density buildings will exacerbate the parking problems. I have a question, Mayor Drosky. You said something about, having to adjust those height limits. So there's 45 feet, you have to add 13 feet, and it really means 58 feet, and adding 13 feet to 55 feet, meaning really 68 feet. Other questions I have are about the parking, because
if you're going to allow a green market and other activities, is that going to take the whole large main parking lot and leave very little limited parking for people to come who cannot walk? My husband is 89. He came to Founder's Day. By the time he finished walking to the beach, he ended up having to sit at the bus stop while the rest of us walked around enjoying the Founder's Day activities because it was just too exhausting. There needs to be some parking when you have activities like green markets or food trucks or even Founder's Day. He didn't even come for 4th of July because we were away. All right. Please do not put the possibility of changes to Article 11 on the ballot. The Charter Review Board members voted 3-2. Notice their vote was not unanimous. To give you the responsibility to decide if you wish to put the suggested changes to Article 11 on the ballot. But they told the residents at all the Charter Review Board meetings that the decision is up to you. Please do not put any changes to Article 11 on the ballot, at least not this November. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Kiss. Mrs. Kiss. Okay, that concludes those that have signed up. Pardon me, but fear not, and everyone will get the opportunity to speak. Those that are inside. Now, how do you know we're going to go in person, not online?
I asked him if I could go. He said yes.
I'm just kidding. So those that we'll go to, those that are online, be patient. We're going to get to you next. Those that are here in person but did not sign up, your opportunity, we'll just take you one at a time. Ms. Potkin, go ahead, please.
Okay, Elise Miller Plotkin, 1998 Northeast 7th Street. It seems to me that you're rushing to put too many items on the November election. The charter is too important. There's too many sections that you have to include in there. And I think it's going to confuse too many people. And because people are going to be confused, they're not going to know how to vote. And so the people that are against the charter being changed will get screwed and it'll end up being changed because people are ignorant and you're rushing. I don't think that it's something necessary. You have too many important things to put on the ballot. And I don't think we need to hurry with this one either, especially with this referendum with so much money that's involved in this. I think this could wait to the March time because it's very important and people work too hard to get it where it is. Another thing is you said the green market to have so many events on the parking lot. We don't even have parking now when there's events. And you didn't ask people's opinion when you did so many big projects in the city of Deerfield. Example, like the Science Center on Hillsborough, that would have been a perfect place for a parking lot. And we would have made a lot of money when people paid per hour for that. You did so many development in the school system and then the different parks that money could have been used for the police stations and the fire stations that have been rotting for such a long time, but we didn't get the choice to have that improved instead of all the other projects that you did. And the fire department and the police departments are really decrepit. Now it hits us with $500 million in a referendum when we didn't get time to think about it. So I think there's so many things that you're rushing with November and the charter and this and that I don't think you should have them all this November. It's too important to us, and I think we're getting a big rush job.
Thank you, Ms. Plotkin. Mr. Dubois, welcome.
Good evening. Yes, thank you. Claude Dubois, 2096 2nd Street, the Wyndham Deerfield, the award-winning Wyndham Deerfield Beach Resort, if I may add. Thank you for everything that you do, of course, but I would like to highlight what I've highlighted the last time I was here. We are losing business. We closed 2 restaurants. I lost 50% of my workforce from 200 down to a little bit less than 100. We tried to reopen one of the restaurants this season, but it just didn't take off. We have a lot of respect for the locals who support us, especially.
Mr. Dubois, please just address the.
Sorry, yes,
That's
sorry.
okay. Sorry, yes.
We have a lot of respect for the locals who support us during the off-season, but it's not enough. We bring about 100,000 people a year to the island. Those people support restaurants like Amante's, JB's, Ocean's, which are wonderful restaurants. But I don't know if you had the opportunity to walk the S-curve recently. You have 7 storefronts that are closed closed. They've been closed not for 6 months, they've been closed for years. You have 2 motel strips that are closed as soon as you cross the bridge. The Royal Blues is closed. The Sunrider is closed. My guests who spend quite a bit of money, to stay with us, especially in season, see a green pool, a building in complete disarray, infested probably, and I'm losing customers because of that. My customers who have been with us, who have a very strong following, about 80% of our clientele comes back during season, are asking me what is happening in the city of Deerfield Beach. So yes, we want more height. We don't want, very, very tall buildings, but a little bit more. And again, changing the floor ratio, I think would really help us. Our ownership has been in business on this island since 1969. We opened as a hotel in 1971. We've put the hotel on the map globally with the group I work for, Wyndham. And our owners want to invest in the city to make the city better. I started on the island 12 years ago. All the stores were open, multiple restaurants. It was very busy in season. And now it's just not busy anymore the way it was. People are not spending as much money. So we simply need your help, yes, to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dubois. Hi there. Just name and address, for the
Hi
record,
there.
please.
Hi, y'all. My name is Jerry West. I live at 514 Northeast State Avenue in District 1. I appreciate you all having these workshops. This is the first one that I've ever been to. I'm the silent majority, obviously. And I haven't been here, but I think the reason why I haven't been here is because I don't think you guys listen to us. I don't think you guys listen to any of us that are out here. You do whatever you want to do or what you've already made your decisions on. And that's why I haven't been to one of these. I want you all to listen to us. I think you all need to listen to us because we love this city. We love living here. We want it to be a good city. We want it to be prosperous. We want it to be like everybody else wants it. But we want you guys to listen to what our concerns are. And if you don't do that, then we don't have the courage or the initiative to come to these things and participate. And our votes will show that in the times to come. That's it.
You.
Good evening, Larry Koch, 1105 Little Harbor Drive. And first, I'd like to pick up on something, Vice Mayor Hudak, that you said at the beginning of the meeting. In many ways, the city charter of Deerfield Beach is what the Constitution of the United States is to our nation. Right? It's the fundamental document that establishes how our government is organized, defines its powers, and protects the principles under which our city operates. Now, the United States Constitution is intentionally difficult to amend. It requires approval by 2/3 of both houses of Congress and ratification by 3/4 of the states. Now, the reason for that is quite simple. Our most fundamental governing document should not be changed lightly or by narrow majorities. And I think that raises a reasonable question for Deerfield Beach. If our charter serves like our city's constitution, should changes to it also require a supermajority? Should a recommendation from this commission require more than a simple majority? And when the question is presented to voters, should approval require more than a simple 50% majority plus one? Now, I'm not here tonight to advocate a specific threshold, whether it's 2/3, whether it's 3/4, or some other supermajority is a matter for thoughtful discussion. But my point is simply this: if we believe our charter is the foundation of our city's government, then perhaps it deserves the same level of protection that our nation's Constitution has received for more than 2 centuries. Now, I recognize, I'm not naive, I recognize the commission is unlikely to change the voting thresholds before you consider charter amendments on July 21st. So therefore, I'm asking each of you as individuals to carefully consider the strength of your convictions regarding every charter amendment that you recommend. If you're firmly convinced that a proposed amendment will improve our charter for decades to come, then by all means recommend it. But if there is substantial doubt, if the evidence is inconclusive, or the need is uncertain, I would encourage you to leave the charter as it is. Constitutions should be amended only when the case for change is compelling. So I guess to kind of sum up what I'm saying, when it comes to changing the city charter, if you're sitting on the fence, you have to vote against. And lastly, I would just add, it's all well and good that you want to let the voters have a voice, let the voters decide, but it is your job as our elected representatives, it's your responsibility to recommend what you truly believe is best and in the interest of our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Koch. Mr. DeChristopher? Mr. DeChristopher, you can come over. You've been very patient on this side.
Thank you. Bob DeChristopher, 517 Northeast 6th Avenue. Just back on the misinformation coming from this commission. P3s are not new. I don't know who said that. Doesn't matter. Meisner Park is a P3. City Place is a P3. Meisner was 1989. City Place was 2000. So it existed when these rules were put in place. I love that at the last meeting and they put the zoning code, and one of the provisions here is to fall back to the city land use and zoning code and get rid of the other stuff from the beach limitations. And as we know, the zoning code and zoning map is not really something you can rely on. It is a suggestion, as this city turns out, when we have a project by us that is 9 times the density, 9 times the intensity. You got a second project over here, Vista Clara, same thing. It was a suggestion. The zoning code was a suggestion. Hillsborough Center, a suggestion. So to put it up there is just disingenuous to say, you have these protections in the existing code because we got this zoning map. Well, if we give you the power to change the zoning map, then we're screwed. As far as leases versus ownerships, anybody that's going to give you $100 million is going to want a 99-year lease or a 50-year lease at a minimum. That is no difference than a sale. So to come up here, again, misinformation, 99-year lease, they own it. You don't have anything except to collect a check every year on property that we want as open space, whether it's Pioneer Park or any other city-owned property. And to use your example, the one on 10th, the city voted in favor for it. I voted against it, but I got nothing to say because you put it on a ballot, the city voted for it. I lost. I don't care, but at least you put it to the people to vote for it. So I'm really disappointed, and I'm going to be really disappointed. I know preemptively that the language you put on the ballot is going to be so misleading, kind of like the information we get here. Again, live local. No matter what we do, so I guess the inference is, and you can correct me, if we allow more development, we won't get live local because developers will be able to build more on the land they got. But they're still going to build live local if they can build 40% more. So nothing we do with the charter is going to change live local. The lease is 99 years, and the zoning codes, to fall back to the zoning code or land use is really ridiculous when you approve projects that are 9 and 10 times the existing intensity and density of lots of the projects I just named. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeChristopher. Anyone else like to speak that's in the commission chamber? We have someone coming down the aisle. Just name and address for the record, please.
Yes. Todd Mall, 1226 Southeast 13th Avenue, Deerfield Beach. I'd just like to make a couple of comments. It was mentioned earlier about concerns regarding Rosewood and the 10 stories. I don't believe that anywhere on the potential changes for the charter are we talking about going up 10 stories. So I think that really using that as a comparison is not a reasonable comparison. And I don't think any of the voters is looking to go up however many 100 feet for their excuse me, for the height. It was mentioned also that the commission provides variances. I don't believe that the commission is able to provide variances for the charter. Certainly there are opportunities for developers to come in and present to the commission, but they really haven't, right? I mean, they've been presenting and they've been improvising or trying to improvise. They've waited for 24 years, but what's been shown is that they've walked away. We've not had a development here on the island. We've not had growth of any great degree on the island. A small change to the charter is necessary to bring that growth back to the island because it simply hasn't been there up to this point. It was mentioned that other cities are flush with permits. I'm curious to know to what extent Deerfield Beach is flush with permits. It doesn't strike me as that's the case. Permits may apply to certain robust coastal towns, but it doesn't seem to be applying to Deerfield Beach, and I just don't understand why that might be. Perhaps it is the charter, perhaps it is the area in and around Deerfield Beach. I don't know, but it doesn't strike me as a place that developers want to come to. In my mind, it's most likely because of the charter restrictions. I'd like to say no decision is still a decision. Delaying just simply pushes it out for another time period for another committee or another commission to deal with. We've had over 24 years to address this problem, and we've not done so. And the last thing I'd like to say is, you know, it's been mentioned we want Deerfield Beach to be a small town feel, a village. This represents the charter and the view of the designers of the charter 24 years ago. Let the voters today decide what their view of a village is, what a small town feel is. They may differ for what their view of a village and small town feel is, and they have a right to for their voices to be heard. The people that designed it 24 years ago do not represent all of Deerfield Beach. They represent a portion of Deerfield Beach. Let the rest of Deerfield Beach be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mall.
Dan Hers, 330 Southeast 19th Avenue. Here's what the mayor said to an empty commission chamber on July 2nd, purposely planned the night before a major holiday weekend. Quote, "There is a side issue to this that is a result of moving the election from March to November, that the terms of the elected officials would be increased. That side effect just comes with the process. So it would be a 20-month extension. It's a one-time extension. You either want November elections or you don't. I don't know how we get around that, to be honest with you. I likewise would choose option A. B is a non-starter for me. I mean, if you want November elections, you want November elections. I mean, this whole crazy scenario of having a March 27 election and a March 29 election, only to get to a November 30 election and everything starting in 32, way too convoluted, way too political. We either want the elections in March or you don't, or you want the elections in November. I think as soon as possible is the way to go. None of this delaying it or staggering it out. Let me repeat the mayor's 6 words. Way too convoluted, way too political. So let me help the 3 of you to understand. Nobody voted for any of you to have the opportunity to add on 20 more months of salary. The Charter Review Board wouldn't even discuss option A because it was so outlandish. They concluded by a 4-to-1 vote the best and fairest way to move the elections is for the winners of the March 27 and 29 elections to have their term shortened by 4 months. Is that too convoluted to understand? What about the mayor saying way too political? That is very hypocritical. You said yourself you have long been a proponent of March elections, and you've always thought that having the only show in town was the way to do it, to have the residents' attention and for them to focus on the election. You only want to cancel the March election so Hudak remains in office, so Rodney Brimlow's police and fire departments can go on as planned. As we all know, including the silent majority, that is the only thing that really matters. I wanted to congratulate you after the last workshop and leaving 7.09 alone, but I knew it was too good to be true. All one needs to do is look at Mayor Drosky's campaign finance report to see why the lobbyists and developers forced the mayor to bring up Charter Item 709 again. Why are there so many people here tonight opposing the main charter revisions? That's easy. Nobody trusts the three amigos. Thank you.
Is there anyone else inside the commission chamber who'd like to speak? Come on down. Just name and address for the record, please.
Christina DeChristopher, 517 Northeast 6th Avenue. I'm going to repeat a lot of things. So first, the city saying, please give us more flexibility at a time when the public has no trust about what the city will do with flexibility, because there hasn't been a single PDD up for vote that the commission didn't ultimately deny. So all of them that came through passed eventually. And we can have all the workshops and meetings in the world, but if the residents can't trust the officials that they elected to act on the information from the community, then all of the thank you for coming, we hear you, we love that you participated, but we're not going to take it into consideration when we vote on your behalf. So voter referendum is really the only way that the residents can decide for themselves. And some of these items feel like, how can we trick the voters into letting us remove them from the process without them knowing? And even the agenda packet for the first workshop strikes through the title of 11.01. The language was protection of beach area from excessive development and changed it to maximum height limitation for commercial and multifamily zone properties in beach area. I'm so concerned about wanting to jump on board about removing the FAR when that's the most important, one of the most important protections in my opinion. And it's in the developer's best interest to remove it. And you say, okay, we'll protect the height, but not the FAR. And that's a trick if you said it yourself that people don't understand what FAR is. And I'm going to give a quick example, but I don't think I can say it better than what Commissioner Shinesky already said. You end up with a Mike Tyson. So a 20,000 square foot lot with a 1.0 FAR can give you 20,000 square feet of building. If you change the same building lot to 2.0 FAR, now you have 40,000 square feet. That's double the intensity. The height limit doesn't prevent this. So increasing the FAR increases the total amount of usable building space, more parking requirements, more water, more sewer, more solid waste. There's a higher strain for emergency services. A 45-foot building can be massive if the FAR is increased. A taller building with the same FAR will occupy less of the site because the floor area ratio is distributed vertically. So I'm going to say something unpopular because I feel like the language is a wolf in sheep's clothing, that the residents think this is a win if the height doesn't go up by 10 feet, but really that's the least impactful protection in the whole item. Changing 10 feet taller, the trap here is the last sentence, with all other development requirements governed by the applicable land development regulation. And if everyone is getting their thoughts together, I want the thoughts to be accurate since they're using them to support a position. And the vice mayor, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, somebody made a statement that if developers want to knock down a multifamily development and build a single family home, they can't do that because they're imprisoned by the charter protections. But the code doesn't support that statement. Single family dwellings are permitted use in RM10 and RM25. The number of units is not a requirement.
Thank you for getting that out. Mrs. Massey, standing to stretch, or would you like to speak?
No, I sat too long. I need my cane to walk now, sorry. Don't put the time on yet, Heather. I'm getting set. Rita Massey, 349 Northeast 19th Avenue. Michael, I'm sorry I left my boxing gloves home tonight. You came out with 6 guns on you. You were raring to go, buddy. You said that the people don't care about the charter. Honey, they're the new people that they should be able to vote. They love the charter the way it is. That's why nobody has come here before us to say that we want to change. They're very happy with the way it is because it's the right way to be. By the way, guys, The developers are already buying up property in Deerfield Beach. You ought to know what they're buying here and what they're paying for the property. And the man in Little Harbor made a very important point when he made the comparison between what you came out and said tonight about the, what our guys before us said about the, I don't know what you call it, but you know what I'm referring to, what you said, when he said that that's why they made it so strict, so that it was perfect and it shouldn't be changed. And the same thing with the charter. That's why it was made so strict, because it was helping the people of Deerfield Beach. And let's see, what else would I want to say here is that put it off to next year, because nobody knows what they're doing here. It's becoming a circus, honest to God. I mean, we talk to people, everybody that hears what's going on here, they say, I don't know what Deerfield is doing. Why do they want to change something that is so good? So put it off till next year so everybody could have a good view of what we want this place to be, and take care of that Rittinger Hotel, condemn it, have them knock it down, and fine the owner for leaving it that way all that while. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Massey. Mr. Chansey, come on down.
Joe Chansey, 4250 Northeast 4th Avenue. Commissioners, I know you guys have a lot to consider, a lot of things. Actually, I wasn't going to speak, but I was compelled to say something. Whatever you guys do, remember one thing. 2004 was when this charter was put in. The city has grown by 30,000 people. And if everybody's so confident, because they want to pick and choose what goes for referendum, what doesn't, if they feel they're so confident, then let the 30,000 people that came to the city make a decision. Whether it's this year election or 2027, let them choose. They haven't had a choice. They're going with what was there before them. So I encourage you all, whatever you guys do, let the 30,000 people be able to have a voice. And out of the 30,000, it's a new generation of people, millennials. And I promise you, everybody in this room deal with a millennial on a regular basis. A lot of them don't come to the meetings because they don't have time. They're raising families, they're young families, so they don't have time. I've heard people in the past say the silent majority. The millennials are the silent majority. They're what I call the sandwich generation. They have young generations coming before them, and they have older generations ahead of them or after them. So they have to bridge the gap from grandparents to parents to children. And at the end of the day, they have to bridge the gap. So whatever you guys deal with, they have to, if it's good, they can keep it going. If it's a mess, they got to clean it up. So I just want you guys to keep in mind that let them and the 30,000 plus people that have joined the city have a say. And if everybody feel confident that they're going to go with what's going on, then let them make the choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chansey. Mr. Estrada, do you want to speak?
Hey there, Michael Estrada, 1431 Southwest 6th Way. First, I want to thank you all for tonight's discussion. I think this is the most I've been encouraged during this entire charter review process. For the first time, it seems like I've heard the commissioners talking about ideas and possibilities and a long-term vision about the beach. And that's exactly the kind of conversation I think most of us residents want to hear and be a part of. Because here's the thing, I don't think we're not debating whether Deerfield Beach should evolve. Everybody agrees it should, but we're talking about how do we get there. I believe the beach can thrive. I definitely believe we can address the aging properties. I think you have powers to do that in other ways that you haven't taken action on. I believe we can definitely attract investment, and I think that we can do all that and still preserve the character that everybody thinks makes Deerfield Beach special. So the goals aren't the thing that we're, at odds about. But before we ask the residents to change 1101 and 1102 amongst the other things in the charter, we need more than ideas. We need a clear vision, and we need a plan to bring that vision to fruition. We've heard really good suggestions from several commissioners. Vice Mayor Hudak shared specific ideas. Commissioner Shinesky talked about planning first. I definitely have thoughts on all of the points as well, and I'm sure a lot of people in the room do. But the ideas aren't the thing that we're here debating tonight. Tonight, we're deciding whether to ask residents to authorize the charter changes before we've done the work of actually defining what those changes are going to accomplish. We're putting the cart before the horse. We have it backwards. So let's spend the next year, 18 months building the vision together, hold workshops, invite residents and business owners, the environmental experts, architects, et cetera, planners, bring them to the conversation, and let's develop an actual plan that answers the hard questions instead of freestyling it, in a couple hours here in front of everybody. We have to know what kind of beach town we want to be 25 years from now. What businesses fit that vision, what developers share the values that we have, what are those values that we have? How do we improve walkability and climate resilience? We know there's going to be a big hurricane that's going to hit. We only have one way in, one way out. What are we going to do to make sure that we're protecting against that? Then bring the residents a specific plan. Show us exactly what the charter changes are that need to accomplish that vision, and then let us decide if we want to make those. I think you'll find the public a lot more willing to support the changes when we can really see where we're headed and not just leaving it up for debate with the developers. Commissioner Shinesky also made the point that really stuck with me. You mentioned property on the barrier island being incredibly rare, and as well as through Deerfield Beach. Reminds me of The Sopranos when Tony told AJ, buy land, AJ, because God's not making any more of it. So once we change this part of Deerfield Beach, we're not going to get that chance back. We just celebrated our 100th anniversary, so let's honor the people who built the community by taking time to build for that next 100 years. Let's work together, come with the vision before we vote. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Estrada. Former Mayor Gans, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome. Rita, is that the height you had it at? So make sure. Bill Gans, 19 Northwest 45th Avenue. It's interesting as we sit here and talk about past decisions that were made and whether they were right or wrong or whether they hold up to the test of time. And I thought it was an interesting point that was made tonight when I heard Commissioner Shinesky talk about the Tam O'Shanter property and saying that it was a cemetery and it was something that he wouldn't have voted for and he wasn't sure how it got there. 2010, not an inch of that property was owned by the city of Deerfield Beach. It was privately owned. The developer came forward, the landowner, I should say, asking the city commission to develop 47 acres on that property. And they would donate 50 acres to the city in Deerfield Beach in exchange. We started lengthy discussions with the public to find out what their opinion was on it. Overwhelmingly, it was yes, we should take the 50 acres. But that was going to be for 400 residential units that were going to go in that space. It was the residents of that area who said they wanted a cemetery. That's how it got there. And yet you say that you would vote no against it and you thought that was a bad project. The city commission voted with the residents at that time for a project that apparently hasn't upheld the test of time in your mind. I think it's important that we take a look at all of these things and understand our history and how we got here and not forget that. Thank you.
You. Mr. Freitag, you'll be next.
Pam Militello, 8847. Oh, that's my old address. 716 Emerald Way West. Sorry, I was on the beach for 30 years. So I just wanted to, and the city has a development dashboard. And in there are a couple drawings of properties that developers have presented at least to planning and zoning. This is the hotel across from JB's where the Finvar Group bought several properties back in 2021. They have it's a modern looking, but it's attractive. And based on what I can see, it meets the charter, the current charter. They submitted this plan, I think, in 2025. This is the notorious Sunrider that everybody keeps talking about, that you keep saying nothing's going to happen there. And Mayor, I think you said the whole beach area could look like the Sunrider if we don't make changes to the charter. Well, here's what they have, at least at this point, presented to the planning and zoning with an application on what they want to do there. And again, based on this, it meets the charter requirements. So the gloom and doom that we keep hearing if we don't do something, developers are smart. They have wonderful architects. This town has got a unique possibility. It's a beach that has not yet been ruined by greedy developers that want to come and balls to the walls, put something on every inch of property. And I don't understand, after being here since 1986, I sat up on the dais, I got Save Our Beach, I worked hard, what you don't understand about what makes this area unique. All beach areas have ups and downs. They all do. Businesses come in, they go out, they get redeveloped. That's part of beach towns. But why don't you embrace what we have and quit being so quick to just listen to what developers want? Some of these people that we're talking tonight own a lot of property up on the beach. They're just salivating at the fact that you all might get rid of this and they can just do whatever they want. So please think about that. There's not a rush. There hasn't been public outcry at all for you all to do this. If you really think people want to see change, then put some effort into it. But this thing is so unique. There's no place else like it, and you should be proud of that and you should treasure it. And I don't, being to all these workshops, 98% of the people that have spoken to you have told you, don't change it. Please, you've got a chance to do the right thing and the people want to work with you on this. But the way you're going about it, we look at it as like you're not listening to any of us. And it's not fair, and I've sat up there and I know what that feels like. And there's no reason for you to rush this to November. There's no reason unless some of these developers have alternate plan number 2 for what they want to do if they're changed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Freitag, you were next, but now you'll be next. Go ahead, Ms. Jackson.
Hi, I have a quick question because I guess I'm a little confused. Sandra Jackson, 386 Southwest 35th Avenue. I'm trying to understand the, I guess the P3, with the lease and the bond. You said we're gonna be paying for the bond. So my understanding, if you're gonna lease that property, so my understanding, developer are gonna buy the property, we're gonna own the building, but who's gonna be paying for the lease? The city? If the city's gonna be paying for the lease, we're still coming from the taxpayers, right? That's my understanding. Maybe I'm confused. Also, like Zielinski said, on the ballot about the taxes, I think we need to hold off because we don't know which way that's gonna go. And the city's gonna be losing money. The 50 acres that you was talking about, why can't we sell those property? You're not doing anything with it, been sitting for the longest, and take that money and use it to help repair the fire station. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Mr. Freitag, your turn, please. Thank you for being patient.
Good evening, Roger Freitag, 418 Southeast 2nd Street, Deerfield Beach, Florida. Just some observations and comments. One thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is the fact that flood standards have changed. Development on the barrier island for any new or existing buildings that have to be elevated to meet the 13 feet. Where I live, it's 14 feet 4 inches, just down the street from here, but I guess there's some variance there in the numbers. So I think that's something that the commission should consider. I was at the ULI sales pitch, which was for the following: investors, developers, real estate companies, and greed. Eliminating permeable spaces is just like the Joni Mitchell song. Pave paradise, put up a parking lot, hey, hey. At one of the last commission meetings, 50 acres, I heard about that, Tam O'Shanter. Other lands are also available to the commission. Why are we not consider pushing these lands to be developed? Imagination. Land use changes north of the pier should remain. Where will people go on July 4th after a huge turnout once again at one of South Florida's best beaches? High-end condos, quality versus quantity. Where is the water going to go? Flooding is dangerous to homes, families, and businesses, as we well saw on Southeast 8th Avenue project, which was handled by our great city. Let's be honest, the city does not control private businesses. I heard a comment from a gentleman who owns a hotel or manages a hotel. If the city is not going to do anything legally against these properties, then we have to find a different way to deal with them. Planning and Zoning and Charter Review Board all lack imagination. I've been to Planning and Zoning meetings, no imagination. Charter Review Board meetings, went to almost all of those, no imagination. I agree with a lot of what other people have said, that it is simply about the person with the biggest buck, the billionaire who has the money to develop. And you know what? I disagree with that standpoint, because Deerfield Beach is a fantastic place. With regards to 7.09 and our future fire department and city buildings, the only words I have for that, there's 3 of them: maintenance, maintenance, maintenance. There seems to be a general lack of that. I've been to almost every park in the city. I've toured fire departments. It's not difficult to get into. However, the city of Deerfield Beach, if they're going to get into buying buildings, let's maintain them. There's no reason that buildings can't last more than 25, 30, 40, 50 years. There are buildings, Oxford University in England's been around for almost 800 years. That number's probably off, but they've been around a long time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, let's, I've seen anyone rushing the podium. We'll switch to online. I'll let you pick first, and who's on deck.
Katie Freitag,
That's it?
and then John Slattery.
Okay. Katie Freitag, you are first online.
Katie Freitag, 418 Southeast Second Street. Let me turn my volume up a little more. First of all, I just want to say I'd like to see Mr. Estrada run for office. I think he would be excellent on the dais, and I look forward to voting for him. Number 1, regarding the November-March election change, I find it interesting that one of the commissioners who could benefit the most is actually against this change. So what does that have to say for this change? 2, show me one petition with even 200 names on it that are in favor of changing the charter as it pertains to 11.1 and 11.2. I'll wait. You can't. The review board couldn't do it either. That's because there aren't 200 people that are actually living in Deerfield Beach who are in favor of these changes. Number 3, I'm sure the Wyndham would love to buy the Surf Rider and incorporate it into its property. But guess what? It's not for sale, at least not by itself. The lovely company, La Place du Soleil Partnership, wants to sell it with Royal Blues for 4 times the value of what it stands right now. That's why nobody's touching either one of those properties. Simple greed. Let's put the master plan together. Everybody's saying, hey, we need a master plan. Why aren't we putting a master plan together before we make any changes to the charter? It'd be much simpler. At least this way we would have some type of a roadblock, or you know what I mean. Number 4, live local. If we give them the option to change the zoning, they will. If we leave the zoning as commercial and not mixed use, then live local can't touch it. They cannot go in and change something to go from commercial to mixed use residential without the permission of the commission. And if we don't change the zoning, live local can't touch it. Unintended. I love this at the last meeting when the commissioner mentioned unintended consequences of development. Perfect example. Is everybody enjoying that lovely distillery that we have next to the storage unit over on 2nd? Yeah, guess what? The developer changed their mind. Oh, they ran out of money. Oh, they said, no, we're not going to make a distillery there now. Again, the developers don't want us to remember how they screwed up and how they screw us over, but we remember. And we remember who's sitting on the dais too. We'll remember that come voting time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Slattery is next. Is anyone on deck, Madam Clerk?
Jonathan Onyenjan.
Okay. Mr. Slattery's first. Go ahead, please.
John Slattery, 1455 Southeast 5th Place. I lived here in Deerfield Beach back in the 80s. I left for a while. I've been back here over 15 years now, and I've been involved in coming to these commission meetings pretty regularly over the past 15 years. And one of the things that I've heard time and time again is that city elections are too important for them to be mixed up with the general elections. That's why we need to have them in March. In the 15 years I've been back, there's never been more important things to be decided in an election that's coming up right now. And what is this dais wanting to do? Put it into the November elections, bury it with everything else. Why is this not being decided in a March election when everybody can make decisions, when you've got more time to do all this planning, to be able to create the roadmap that Ms. Freitag was talking about? Just, even it wouldn't even upset what's happening with the upcoming District 1 and District 2 elections. Then those elections could be held, right? And those commissioners could take their seats when they're supposed to. But moving this up 3-4 months is creating havoc, unnecessary stress, unnecessary obfuscation, right? I'm probably mispronouncing that word right now. Didn't come out quite right. But this seems deliberately being built to have deliberate confusion built into it, right? Just slow down, do this the right way, go by the words that you guys have been saying for the past decade and a half that I've been here. Let's keep this in a March election. Let's give this the focus that it needs to have, the time, the lack of confusing new commissioner terms starting. There's just unnecessary. You guys are doing this. Like, you have the right tools to do what you want to do when you want to do it. When it was being decided about what would happen with the 15th Avenue and 13th Avenue bridges, you guys came out with surveys. Hey, let's survey all of the citizens in the area and get their feedback. That could be done right now, with this Article 11. Let's do surveys. Let's do some feedback. Let's get some citizen input before we start pushing this stuff that nobody's frankly asking for. But it's kind of like what was done with the police department, right? Let's push this thing through first, pretend that everybody wanted it, and then do charrettes afterwards to get input from people about something they had no real influence over in the first place. This is probably why you guys want to push this stuff out, and you guys are realizing that the citizens are getting frustrated with the way that things are being done. They're not being done forthright and transparently.
Thank you, Mr. Slattery. Madam Clerk, Mr. Unjian is next. Is there anyone on deck? Mr. Unjian, go ahead, please.
Jonathan Unjian, 1938 Northeast 6th Street. So I apologize because I just tuned in late. I caught what a lucky lady Miss Freitag is. Gets serenaded, I'm guessing, by Roger every night. What a lucky lady. But anyway, he made amazing points throughout that. And Mr. Chansey, to Mr. Chansey's point, I'm a big believer in having people have the right to vote, regardless what anybody says. These decisions, what happened 25 years ago, may not be true today. We had a prohibition on alcohol at one point in this country. That was made a constitutional amendment, and I'm pretty sure that's gone. So things do need, change from time to time. Things are not necessarily thought through when they're the most restrictive and therefore the most perfect. I don't get that analogy. Because building heights have changed as to with the FEMA flood map, and we aren't accounting for that. And we do live in a free market capitalist country, and people should be able to sell their homes for whatever they think it's worth, or property for whatever they think it's worth. And the market dictates that a lot. So it is stopping development. That's why you see so many great, apparently, projects that are still not coming out of the ground, because building costs and cost of construction have gone up considerably. So they stop that. It makes the economics not work when you're dealing with as restrictive of a charter as what we have. So I think it's important that people have the right to vote. regardless. I think that a November election blows the water, the numbers are not even close to a March election. We can ask, Mr. Hers, how many people showed up to his last election? And I think it's partly to do with March and people won't come out. So having people have a right and a say as to when and how they want to see this city in the future, there's no better time to do it than in the November when the most people come out to come and vote. Thank you.
Thank you. That will conclude the public comment tonight. Before we reach adjournment, Commissioner Preston has his light on.
Thank you, Mayor. I really appreciate everyone coming out, sharing their opinion. I think it is important that we from the dais make sure that whatever it is that we are advocating, that we're clear with that. But I want to just tell you, I don't know sometimes how well you, the public, are listening to us as you assert that we don't listen to you. I told you, I'm not for the November elections. I'm not for it. But it seems that nobody heard that. I told you that the best way to assure you on the barrier not to have any changes is not put it on the ballot. Were you listening when I said that? It doesn't seem like you were. There's a certain cynicism. There's a certain cynicism that comes from so many people. The assertion that people are motivated purely by their own self-interest. Listen, I think that the people that sit here, the mayor started off with saying that we all, want the best for the barrier. Here's the issue. We may disagree on certain things, but it's worthy to have the conversation. But it's equally as wrong for you to say that you guys you've already made up your mind. That's not true. That's not true. And if we have already made up our mind, if that was actually the case, then the whole system has been deceived. It's worth nothing. We live in the best country in the world that we can have a robust conversation, but it doesn't mean that we're going to agree. The people up that I sit up here with, you've heard us debate. The Sunshine Law does not allow me to call my colleagues and say, hey, here's my view. I can't do that without the possibility of going to jail. So we have to sit right here and debate it. And oftentimes we don't agree. But the conversation needs to be had. But you, the public, need to listen as well. And I'm going to reiterate a couple of things. March elections, I think that you are in a unique position to have March elections. I'm not in favor of it going to November. I don't want 20 more months. Do you hear me? Okay. I don't want 20 more months. I'm not interested in the salary and that kind of thing. But I will tell you, it's been a plum-pleasing pleasure to serve you, to be a part of the process. Doesn't mean we're going to always agree. But what it does mean is that you care and I care. And in that, we try to find a resolution. I'm going to also tell you, someone said, you're chipping away at the charter. No, we're not. We're having a conversation. Not one person here said this commission, if the commission votes and then, if that became policy, then you could say that. And we had already predetermined exactly what we wanted to be. Okay, at that point, you're chipping away. We're having a robust conversation, a great debate, what this country allows. There's so many other places you can't do what you're doing. So is it worth it to point fingers and just suggest even that the system that we're a part of, you guys are somehow nefarious? It's not right. It's not right. It's not right. So let's have the conversation. Can we always guarantee that we're going to agree? No, but I don't like it. I'm gonna just let you know. And you want to debate me after this? Let's do it. Let's do it. But I don't like you pointing the commission, because that includes me, because I'm on this dais. What I want is what's right for the people in this city. I'm not the District 1 commissioner, but I am a city commissioner. And it's my job to listen. That when I can't listen anymore, that's when I have failed at what I do. And so I want to tell you that I believe the people up here, even though I disagree with them, we oftentimes could have issues. They're honorable people who care. Okay, you disagree. That's okay. That's part of the ball game. But it's not only on city government. That's on the county. That's on the state, the federal, all the way up the chain. That's the way it is. And you know what? As challenging as it is, the guys who started this process, that the people would rule, I believe in it. And I think it's the best thing going in the world. And that's why so many people want to be just like us. So many people want to adopt what we're doing. Why is it that so many people come here and want to be a part of this process? Because they don't have a voice, a lot of the people anyway, from where they come from. There's no such thing. In the 1960s, so many things, it was wrong for a Black person to go to a simple water fountain, to have simple dignity as a human being, as an American. Soldiers that fought for this country. German soldiers had more rights in their own country than they had, but yet they believed in the system to stay with it and to be a part of it. Why? Because deep down at its core, they believe that those that thought it up, Jeffersonian and Madisonian democracy, though they were imperfect in many ways when they came up with it, they did a great job of what it is, because it's the best thing going in the world. And I'm going to tell you, I have not made up my mind on anything when I come before you, but the cynicism should stop, because it's not right. It's not right. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Now we're at the adjournment stage.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Motion adjourned by Commissioner Powell, second by Commissioner Preston. All in favor, signify by